We're continuing our conversation here with the always intriguing, brilliant, and edgy Chadwick More. He is a columnist at Spectator USA. You often see him on Fox News. All right, Chadwick. So Kamala dropped out. Cory Booker's
Yeah.
complaining that there's not enough diversity in the field. I want to ask, Pete Buttigieg doesn't seem like he gets counted in the diversity pool, which is interesting, isn't it?
Right. Yeah, you're good to point that out. He really doesn't get counted in the diversity pool, which goes to show how far what's really happening in their ever shifting hierarchy of the victim classes. You know, who's on top now and who's on the bottom now. White and gay, white male, it definitely trumps the gay with him, and in the eyes of the left now.
And can you explain something to me? You know, within the gay community, I know you've got, you're here in New York City, and I'm sure you got a lot of liberal friends, or at least know a lot of liberals. But I've always wanted to know, why is it that Trump gets really, it seems to me, zero credit at all for being the first president ever to, while he's running, hold the gay pride flag, has never wanted to change or have anybody overturn Obergefell, believes in, is a supporter of gay marriage. And like I see a lot of people from the gay community protesting at different places and acting like Trump is a horrible threat to the gay community in some ways. And I just don't understand how they can square that with reality. It just doesn't seem to. So can you speak to that a little bit? Why doesn't the gay community like Trump more?
Great question, and and other things too. Just this week, the administration launched their initiative to give free PrEP to 200,000 people who don't have insurance. That's a drug that prevents HIV infection, and they also have Ambassador Grinnell's decriminalization effort, where they working to decriminalize homosexuality worldwide. But this gets no credit, and it's almost like we've come to a place. And on top of all of that too, President Trump is hilarious. He is a campy figure. I mean, gay people love camp. They should naturally like him because he's sort of ridiculous and funny and trolly.
He is theatrical for sure.
Extremely theatrical, yes. And so it's a great question. It's just maybe it's obviously not all gay people, because what you see and hear is sort of the 10-15% that are just hardline insane activists. These, who come out of Marxist universities and whatever. They're the most vocal. They're the most unhinged. They grab the microphone. They don't like politicians that don't treat them like special little people and pander to them. And that drives them insane that President Trump doesn't pander to the gay community. He simply treats everyone, the gays, just like anyone else. He's not going to go out of his way to harm you. He's not going to go out of his way to help you. Any more than he would just any other person, which is what a lot of conservative gays really like about him. They see through the malarkey, if you will, of the Democrats, and so I think that's it. If you just talk to gay people anywhere, you'll find that they're not that interested in politics. They vote Democrat. They don't really know what's going on. They're just living their lives, and more people than you realize, even here in New York City, actually do like him. But you don't hear from them because the people who have the mic are just the crazy activists.
So now that Kamala is out of the race, it seems like we're starting to get the first round of consolidation among the Democrats. Where do you see all this going? I mean, do you have somebody that you really believe firmly is going to get into this thing? We had Bloomberg enter the fray and actually get some support off the bat. Where do you see this Democrat primary playing out for the next month or so?
It's really up in the air right now, and people still say that Hillary's going to jump back in. Please, I hope so. And I still see people saying they think Michelle Obama's going to jump in. Michelle Obama could. I don't think she will at this point, but that's probably the only person that could maybe beat him. At this point, the party does seem to be the Warren or Biden split, and the party bosses, the chiefs, really want Biden for some reason, but I don't think they see what the rest of us are seeing, especially with all of his strange comments and speeches.
I mean, isn't that thing that he said about the blonde hairs on his legs standing up and corn pop and everything? I mean, that's the weirdest thing I've heard a major American politician say, perhaps in my lifetime.
I know, it was so bizarre and creepy. And who are his hands? Is he mentally fit? That alone should ask. And who are his handlers? That he already has this reputation for being kind of creepy and hair sniffy and around children, and so he's doubling down on his on his creepiness with children, saying in that same speech, saying he loves it when they sit on his lap. It's like, okay, Joe Biden, maybe don't say that when you already have this reputation or suspected reputation.
Do you think that the impeachment, by the way, is going to backfire on Democrats? I mean, today we had the big announcement about Pelosi saying, it wasn't even really, everyone knew what she was going to say before she said it. I mean, the whole thing is a sham. We all know what this is about. We all know where this is going. But how do you think it plays out?
I think it already backfired. You have something like 60% of independent voters who said they're not even watching it. They care so little, they're not paying any attention to it. I kind of fall into that camp. I don't want to give them the ratings or the eyeballs.
Right. I was going to ask you to tell everybody, but you refuse to watch this thing. So you're interesting because you're very involved in politics, but you're not sitting through the hours and hours and hours of the hearings. So you kind of represent like a normal American, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. Because I intentionally, I'm not even gonna, I spent all I could on Russia, and now I'm like, I'm not gonna give them this time. I think that does represent the average American, especially the swing voter who, it's so abusive how the Democrat Party treats their base because they keep giving them all of these false hopes that they know isn't going to go anywhere, and the base still just hangs on to it and believes that suddenly Trump's going to be removed from office or be caught committing some crime. He's not. It's not going to happen. But the party, the people who are not so hardcore are, I believe, seeing this and just really throwing up their hands and asking, what are the Democrats doing? They're wasting everyone's time and money. They are not proposing anything. They don't care about doing or fixing anything except going after the president.
What are you writing about next, Chadwick? Where should people look for your stuff?
Spectator USA, spectator.us. And you can find next week I'll have a column, really interesting column about online dating, as something's happening in the online dating world.
Whoa, hold on! I want to hear a little about that. Tell me about the online dating world. What do I need to know?
Well, I'll give you a little teaser that there are feminists. I was on a news show debating. There are some activists and feminists who want online dating apps require them to do background checks on everyone on there. Well, they say everyone, but they mean men, and then sort of alert them to if there's a sexual predator. That sounds really nice in theory, but I've got a lot to say on it and why it's actually a terrible idea and what women should be doing to protect themselves. So you can find that. That'll be up early next week.
All right, everybody. Chadwick More, Spectator USA. Chadwick, great to have you, sir. We'll talk soon.
Great. Thank you very much.
You are a self-described socialist. What is your vision of socialism in America?
Well, my very strong belief is that this nation, because of its incredible wealth, its technology, its natural resources, in fact, has the capabilities of providing a decent standard of living for every man, woman, and child. And that's just not, at this point, a utopian vision. The distribution of wealth in this country, as you may or may not know, is one of the most unfair and distorted in the entire world.
But how can you practically change that very uneven distribution?
Well, I think you can change it politically. I think you change it through tax laws. I think you change it through public ownership of significant parts of the economy.
Public ownership of significant parts of the economy. That, my friends, is definitely socialism. And Bernie Sanders is a socialist. But once you start talking about state control of the economy, of the means of production, and the ability to transfer wealth, in fact, the mandate to take from people to give to others, and to provide for everybody, not just provide for their most basic needs, but to provide them a good living, a good standard of housing and healthcare and food and all these other, what does good mean? This is what the Soviets promised their people. I mean, this was the promise of the Soviet Union, which is, by the way, where Bernie Sanders went for his honeymoon. Now, that's an old clip of Sanders. Was it from like the 80s, I think? I mean, it's tough to know because Bernie Sanders, producer Brandon hit it right on the head. Bernie Sanders has looked 74 years old for like the last 40 years. Just so you go back and look. Always has the same sort of voice, same sort of socialism, same this, same that. Nothing really has changed with Bernie. I do give him credit for consistency. At least he's not one of these left-wing politicians who changes what they believe every 5 minutes based upon whatever will be of the greatest short-term benefit to them. Which, by the way, right-wing politicians, let's keep it real. Right-wing politicians do that too sometimes. Not as much as the left. There's not as much room for hypocrisy. There's not as much acceptance of hypocrisy on the left. But here you're feeling the burn, hearing the burn. Say some stuff that's pretty radical, and you, I think, are fully within your rights. I think you would be making perfect sense to ask the question, does Bernie still believe that? Does Bernie still want ownership of large sectors of the economy? This is where I start to get into why and how would that happen? How would we find ourselves in a situation, in a circumstance where all of a sudden you might be able to have a government takeover of large parts of the economy? Well, if I were going to war game this out, if I were going to create the scenario that would bring about a government takeover of remember, the control of the means of production, because if you control the means of production, then you're also inherently engaged in central planning of the resources necessary for that production. And then you're also going to be engaging in, under the wealth redistribution rubric, who gets what from that means of production. You are controlling society top down. You have public ownership of what should be private property, but what they will say is public. The problem is that you switch from socialism to communism. The real switch just has to do with control in the hands of a revolutionary committee of sorts, whether it's, they call it the Communist Party, but it doesn't really matter. All you need is a small group of individuals, or it doesn't have to be that small, but a group of individuals, because who directs? We don't have a government agency currently deciding, how many pairs of shoes are made. We do have a government agency, though. We have a bunch of agencies that'll say how much you have to pay people, what working conditions are like. There's a lot of regulation that is pushing on the door of socialism already, or that is a means of achieving socialist ends without socialist words or nomenclature. But if I were trying to bring about the opening for socialism to happen in this country, what would I want to do? Continuously expand government. We're doing that. Government just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. I mean, we should all recall that the sequestration, remember the sequestration fight? It's kind of a political nerd thing. I mean, some people remember, some people don't. Who cares, really? But that was a big thing back under the Obama administration, because Republicans said, fine, you can even cut defense spending. We're going to cut overall spending. There's big fights, and oh my gosh, and the Republicans are stealing food from the mouths of babies, all this stuff. That was sequestration. That huge food fight on Capitol Hill was a decrease in the planned increase in government spending from already record level and unsustainable level debt. That's what the huge fight was about. It wasn't, oh my gosh, these draconian cuts. It was, whoa, we're expecting to keep spending further and further into debt at this level. You're going to tell me we can only spend a little less in it? No. Pas acceptable, as Macron would say, or perhaps Trudeau. Who do we think? Oh, no, we know Macron's more French. Trudeau is more fun to make fun of, but Macron's more French for sure. So if you wanted to create the opening in this country for a takeover of major industries, you know what you'd want to do? You'd want to create an unsustainable debt load that would eventually crash the economy, perhaps end the U.S. as the global reserve currency, force people to make decisions under duress, political decisions about who they're going to put in power when the country is in a panic. And as I have said, as much as I wish it would be the case that when this day comes, when the debt is finally too large, when the music stops, there aren't enough chairs, maybe there's no chairs, I wish it would be the case that people would say, but this is what the the acolytes of Milton Friedman have been saying what happened all along. I mean, this is what, of course, this debt eventually became unsustainable. Of course, it caused massive dislocations in the economy. That's exactly what Friedrich Hayek would have said, or von Mises. Ja, von Mises, from the Austrian school. Guten Tag. That's what they would have said. But that's not what happens. People say, I'm scared. I want to know that there's going to be health care for me, that I'm going to have a place to live, that there's going to be food on the table, that my family's going to have food. And instead of understanding that all of that is much more possible, much easier, and much better if you maximize the functions of the free market within a society as wealthy and prosperous and educated as we are, what happens? People say, oh, the politician, the demagogue, the Elizabeth Warren, the Bernie Sanders, the Joe Biden, any of them. But the person who comes forward and says, the rich push this economy off a cliff, they did not pay their fair share, and we need to make sure that there's a fairer future for everybody, and we're going to pay for all of your stuff, and we're going to soak the rich. Those people, they get in charge when the crisis hits. So Bernie Sanders, I was going to say, is playing the long game. He's obviously up there in age, and I hope that he's healthy and has a very nice long retirement. But the socialists in this country are certainly playing the long game. I mean, there's a movement now. You're seeing it more openly. It's not new, but it's a movement of socialists that recognize the overall trajectory. We are heading toward socialism as a country. People don't like to hear this. It's true. We're heading further and further in that direction. Trump maybe has slowed down some of this, although the Trump administration spending is far too high. But if this continues as is, we will, either step by step or in response to a crisis, a catastrophe, we will be a country that is effectively a socialist country. I do believe we are heading there. And I think we're close. I think we are closer to it than anybody on the right wants to admit right now. I mean, I just saw that there's this pushback from price transparency in the healthcare market. All these doctors and all these different, facilities and insurance and all, they don't want price transparency. That, my friends, that we could have an argument over 1/6 of the economy is not allowed to be directed by prices. This should be a much big, and people fight against this when finally the Trump administration says, hold on, you need to be able to know what something costs. They fight this. They don't want there to be transparency. They want it to be, as Bernie Sanders says, decided by politics. And if it's decided by politics, not the market, you know who decides? Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Ocasio-Cortez. Speaking of people who are socialists who are playing the long game here, they get to decide. And my friends, you get to suffer the consequences. This is where the country's really, this is beyond 2020. This is where the country's really heading. I saw something yesterday, producer Brandon, that really got me so excited, and I had to sort of tone it down a little bit. I had to sort of rein it in, pull it back, and chillax a little bit. You know what I saw?
What's that? Santa?
Who?
Santa Claus?
I mean, that would be amazing.
Okay.
I mean, I probably could see Santa. It's probably a fake Santa though, who's got like half a ham sandwich still in his beard and is drinking, drinking some bourbon.
Billy Bob Thornton.
So here's what I found. There is currently a bill making its way through Congress. Useless Congress, everybody. Doesn't do squat. Speaking of squats, I got to do some. Papa Buck's getting weak. But doesn't do squat. And they're looking at passing a pretty aggressive bill about robocalls.
Good.
Robocalls are a scourge. They are the audio equivalent of the bubonic plague. You know, there's some number, they've made billions of robocalls just in the last month in this country.
Wow.
So you think there's only 300 million people. So there's, every person in the country is basically, whoever is behind these things, whatever country is behind robocalls, should hand over these people to us, who should be bankrupted. I would say it's a form of like harassment, mass harassment. Look, if you can get people for wire fraud for like minor white collar stuff, this should be absolutely illegal. And I know politicians like to do robocalls too, by the way, but at least that's seasonal. You can only do it, leading up to an election. But even that should be gone. No more robocalls. And any country that harbors robocallers, you're either with us or you're with the robocallers. And if we have to bomb some people, I'm saying I think we got to bomb some people because this is unacceptable. I sit here during the show and I can't tell you how many times people say, Buck, why are you looking at your phone? So my phone's ringing. Everybody who knows me knows you don't call Buck during the show, right? What kind of disrespect is that? It's always, hi, you've won a cruise. I'm like, I will, Minnie Mouse, stop calling me. I will crush you. Drives me insane. And we live in the NSA. We got all this fancy stuff, all these crazy programs. I used to know about this stuff. I used to work in the government, CIA. Ooh, we got all these. Why can't we get? They're going to tell me they can't find who the robocallers are? I mean, they're coming from somewhere.
I don't believe that at all. My mom actually has been complaining about that a lot to me as well. Like, who are these people? She thinks they're prank phone calls, but
And
I have to explain
a lot of them, by the way, are committing fraud. I mean, what they want is they want you to give them credit card information, other things, and then they, a lot of it is foreign based. But I mean, we should go. I mean, it should be the great robocall war of 2020. Like, I don't care what, if this coming from Belarus, you're on the hit list.
I know, absolutely. And I hate when it's a local number, when you think
that's
it's
what they do. They spoof the local numbers.
You think it's like you and me, we book guests, so we
Of
always
course.
kind of answer our phone.
Yeah.
And it ends up being, you wait a second. They
Or-
don't even
or-
answer.
And even if it's a block number, it's like, what if it's President Trump waking up and finally realizing he should make me White House press secretary? Like,
You
what
never
about
know.
that?
You never know. And then you get mad.
And then I missed that call, and he'd be like, yeah, Buck missed his chance. He missed his call. I'm like, yo, I'm right here.
Oh, it's infuriating. It's absolutely infuriating.
Yeah.
Have you gotten the text as well? The robo
Drives
text?
me insane. But it's great with the text. Oh, yeah. I got it.
Which is basically the same thing, just in text form.
But they may be passing a law that would allegedly deal with this. And here's why I can't get too excited. It's Congress. I feel like they're going to mess it up. This is the easiest thing to know. This is so bipartisan. I got to say, I don't even know. I mean, if a Democrat managed to take care of this issue, would I vote Democrat? I don't think so, but I'd have to think about it because it drives me insane. Almost as a robocalls need to go, and then the backup noise on trucks needs to go too. All vehicles.
Yes.
This is my great campaign for all of humanity. It's the dumbest idea in the universe. The things are way too loud. They developed this sound. Some Japanese guy, an engineer in the 70s, developed this sound. It actually is at a decibel level that's much higher than it needs to. The whole thing is trash, but OSHA won't change. I mean, Buck wants to wage war on OSHA and the robocallers.
You got my vote.
You know what I'm saying?
Buck 2020.
I mean, there's the rent is too damn high guy. There's the robocalls are too damn much guy. That's me. I just completely lose my mind on this. Can't the government do something worthwhile for once? I can't. Anyway, it's just
Serenity now.
we'll see if this ends up actually happening. And by the way, there was also I keep telling you about these gun laws in New York City. This was great though. They've essentially admitted also that the gun laws that they're trying to fight for does not make anybody safer, which is just amazing. So now we've gone to the point where they're not even doing make-believe. They're not even pretending that these gun laws are about safety in New York. The lawyers are like, yeah, we just have them. This just goes to the point that I've often made in the past that I want you all to remember, that much of gun legislation is really about not liking gun owners instead of making people safer. It's a way to stick your thumb in the eye of people that believe in the Second Amendment who are now overwhelmingly conservative and on the right. So by passing laws to harass that constituency, you are doing something that just makes liberals feel good. They like it. They like to just stick it to the gun owner. They like to show gun owners that they're not good people and they support the wrong politicians. I mean, New York has admitted as much, that the stupid rules that I've told you about, and I know what those rules are, the stupid rules about how you can own a firearm, transport a firearm, they don't even know whether the rules will be enforced in certain ways. That is all because they don't like gun owners. That's it. Just like I've been saying for a long time. This is why when you point out after there's some terrible gun massacre or some crime happens that's unspeakable involving firearms, they want to pass laws that wouldn't have stopped that crime, because it's not about stopping crime. It's about blaming gun owners for all of society's ills. That's what it really is. I think there are 60 million gun owners in America, something like that. I mean, it's a pretty big swath, a pretty big bunch, and of course, over 300 million estimated firearms in circulation. But we live in the People's Republic of New York, man. It's not a good scene here sometimes.
It's time for roll call.
It's the roll of the call, the roll call. I know that really made sense, but it was close enough. Close. People know what I'm talking about. Facebook.com/Buck Sexton or Team Bucket iHeartMedia, which I do. I heart it. iHeartMedia.com. Also, please continue to check us out on channel 248 on Pluto TV. Pluto TV is an app. Go on your smartphone. Just type in Pluto, Pluto TV. Download it. Go to channel 248. Super easy, totally free. Looks really slick. A lot of other channels you can see on it, too. It's not just for the show, but this show is obviously awesome. Me, Jesse Kelly, the first on Pluto TV, channel 248. Do check it out. And you know whose birthday's coming up later this month, Brandon? Buck. I don't know why I just referred to myself in the third person, but and so we have the birth of Jesus and the birth of Buck in the month of December. And what do I want for my birthday? I want everyone listening to this show to get one person who loves freedom in America to download, to actually subscribe is even better, but download and subscribe to the Buck Sexton podcast on either iTunes or the iHeartRadio app or wherever they listen to podcasts. And if they've never listened to podcasts, be like, well, this is the one you should start with. So that's where it's at. All right, let's get to it. Katrina writes, hey, Buck, been watching you and Jesse on Pluto TV. Well, good job. Good job, Katrina. That's the way to do it. Glad to have another conservative outlet out there. Hope the first continues to grow. All right. Shields high. Thank you so much, Katrina. Appreciate it. Let's get to Angela. Hey, Buck. Love the show. Angela, the show loves you. The Irishman is definitely a must-see. Peaky Blinders Season 5, also a must. Well, I got to tell you, Angela, because you like Peaky Blinders Season 5, it makes me more inclined to think that I should listen to you about The Irishman. By the way, I think what we're going to do when producer Mark comes back. Brandon, do you like hockey? Mm-hmm. All right. And is there hockey in January and February?
I think so. I should know this. Yeah, I think it ends in April.
Oh, okay.
And I'm wearing an Islanders hat.
Yeah,
right
I mean, it's
now.
wintertime, and I feel like you guys are skating around on a big block of ice. The winter makes it's not like you should be playing hockey in July, really.
No. I think it ends in like March, April.
All right, so I'm gonna try to sponsor Papa Buck over here is gonna sponsor a Freedom Hut ice hockey because I want to keep an open mind.
Okay.
So I'm gonna get tickets for you, me, and Mark.
Oh, nice.
That's my plan. Yeah.
I'm
so
into
when Mark
it.
comes back.
Thank you.
So would you come?
Yeah.
All right. And do we see the Rangers or the Islanders?
I mean, if it's possible to see an Islanders-Rangers game, you might see Mark and I fight, but...
Oh, you're on opposite sides of this?
Yeah.
Oh, we got to do that then.
Yeah,
I mean, the seats are going to be crappy, by the way. I mean, the Freedom Hut is still growing. But, we'll go.
Sure.
We'll go, And I'm just saying, this is a plan we have. So there you have it.
All right.
Angela says she binged it on both last weekend. It was well worth it. Jack Ryan this season can't get past episode 2. Angela, I agree. Jack Ryan's crap. It's not good. It's not good. They should have just thrown a little cash to the Buckster. I would have explained to them how to make some cool stuff happen. Give them a little CIA razzle dazzle, and the show would have been watchable. But no, it's crap. It's a garbage show. It's really bad. I'm very disappointed because first season was hyper unrealistic and there's some cheesy stuff, but it moved. It was pretty good. Even though they get the guy at the end of this. Anyway, I should probably just do a new show where I just get to talk about whatever's on my mind, like pop culture stuff, and just let it rip. And people can listen to that if they want. So I get some people to like it. Other people are like, where are you on the political philosophy? Stick in your lane, sir. How dare you, sir? I'm like, but I love all you guys, and I just want to share with you some of my thoughts on the things. I just want to be friends, Team Buck. Boots. Oh, that's actually his name. That's awesome. Boots and Buck. That would be a great name for a bourbon. Boots and Buck. Solomon was displaying a number of questionable donations funneled through a fake business to top Dems. Reason for the rush so they can claim retribution. Boots, I don't really know what you're asking me here. I think you're referring to John Solomon, but I'm not really clear on the question, so I'm going to have to ask you to send in a clarifier on that one for me. Steve writes, hey, Buck, love the show and always find comfort in the Freedom Hut. You mentioned with Sean Davis that you were surprised that piracy and counterfeiting weren't included in the so-called crimes by Big Bad Orange Man. How about felonious mopery? Hat tip to Dan Bongino. I mean, you must remember Orange Man Bad heading down the escalator at Trump Tower way back, even before he won. You know he had to be planning something nefarious. Anyway, this is what emanates from the district of Crazy Town. Buck, my arms are getting weary, but still keep the shield held high. Well, my man Steve, that's how you got to keep it. It's no use if it's down by your ankles. You got to keep the shield up. Otherwise, the phalanx begins to fail. That is, of course, where we get shields high. It's perhaps a little bit nerdy, sure. But we love history. We love ancient Greece. Fantastic. So that's why we are shields high. It comes from back in the day. Holding your shield up in the phalanx. Shoulder to shoulder, shield to shield. It's actually a form of warfare that lasted a very long time. Believe it or not, the Vikings. My Viking sounds a bit like my German. It's sort of same, except a little more sing-songy.
I didn't know the Swedish chef was a Viking.
My name is Blurgen Klurgen from the Flurgen Fjord. They had something. I mean, for somebody who doesn't do a Swedish accent a lot, it's not terrible. But they had the shield wall, which if you've watched Vikings on the History Channel, they show you that's great. And they also have it in The Last Kingdom, which is I think the first season's a phenomenal show. I think it's a great show. Have you seen The Last Kingdom? Do you like dudes with beards and swords fighting and,
Sure.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You should check out Last. It's on Netflix.
Okay.
It's great. Really quality.
I'm looking for a new show. So
yeah, check that one. Come on, watch a little bit, and you come on, you tell me if my recommendations are good.
All right, you got it.
There we go. Ethan writes, Buck, I think your movie choice is usually pretty spot on, but But yesterday you said Timothy Dalton's Bond movies were weak. I recommend going back and checking them out again if you've never really watched them. T. Dalt. T. Dalt, that's a first. Was actually a fantastic Bond in the movies. They just didn't play well to an audience who had gotten more used to Roger Moore's silly, campy version of the role. I've only seen, I think, Dalton's License to Kill, and all I really remember is that he fed a guy to a great white shark in the beginning of it, I think. Which is that would not be a good way to go. No. If you got to be eaten by something, I mean, I think I take bear over shark. People come to the show for the really high-level analysis like this. You're going to be eaten by something. You go bear or you go shark.
Are those the only two options?
I mean, dude, you're getting eaten one way or the other.
Because I would want to be eaten by a whale. Just be one and done. That's it.
Yeah, but no, dude, then you'd slowly asphyxiate in its giant gullet.
Touche.
Yeah.
I guess I'm thinking of Pinocchio got out, so.
Yeah. No, it's not. And
That's
there's
not
not that
real.
much room in there. It'd be kind of gross.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Okay, here, let's play the game for a second, producer Brandon. You have a choice. You can either be eaten by a crocodile or asphyxiated by a boa constrictor.
Oof. I got to think crocodile.
Me too.
Yeah.
I feel like the massive blood loss means you'd at least pass out pretty quickly, whereas the boa constrictor, you got to be thinking, come on, man. I'm going out constricted like this.
And that's a more manly way to go, being eaten. Maybe you're still punching the...
Yeah, exactly. You can fight.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you sit there, the boa constrictor, and you just stare at you while it slowly squeezes you.
Yeah.
It's not good.
Helpless.
Yeah, helpless. All right. So we established that one. That's why all the important analysis is done here on the Buck Sexton Show. Kyle, Buck, I heard you talking about GoldenEye skills. Sorry, but a truly great player doesn't need to use Odd Job to win. Our house rules were no choosing Odd Job because of the unfair advantage of his height. When you can be playing as Jaws instead, you have bragging rights. Damn, my man. Kyle knows what's up. That's true. Odd Job that's why I liked Odd Job. He was sneaky. You can sneak around. You couldn't shoot him as easy. You learn something. I see, Kyle. I see your game. I know what you're. I saw you on the dance floor. You move pretty good. All right, everybody. Fantastic show today. Going to be great tomorrow, too. Please do spread the word about the show, and we'll talk to you then. Shields high.